My Lips podcast. My name is Catherine Louise, and I have the absolute pleasure of having Lottie Teideman in the studio today. So super excited. We're going to go through her latest release, which is fantastic. I won't spoil it. I'll let her obviously introduce it and talk about it. But we're also going to be going through the Sunday Times paperback bestsellers in this version. And also what we're going to be doing at the end of it as well is we're going to be giving away your very own signed copy. So again, we'll go into that a little bit more detail. But firstly, so thank you so much for coming in the studio today. Absolutely. I've been really excited for this particular episode and going through your new release. So for the audience out there, tell me about your new book.
Yes, so I'm Lottie Teideman. This is my new book. I'm so excited. So this is my first ever book that I have published. It's called Dirty Laundry. So I am a mum and I started this 4 years ago in the depths of motherhood. And it was originally a non-fiction. Yep. And it was kind of from my point of view about motherhood, the challenges, the ins and outs, the feelings that we all have as mums about, you know, resentment, mum guilt, the mother load, all of those things. But then my laptop died one day. Oh, no. And as an author, I'm sure you can imagine, it literally broke my heart. And I lost it all. And as an ADHDer, I was not writing that book again. I was like, okay, that one's gone. I'm starting again. So then it became a fiction. So we follow two characters, Emma and Dan. Emma has kind of lost her identity. They've lost the spark in their marriage. She's feeling resentment. She's feeling guilt. She's just feeling completely lost in her motherhood journey with 3 young children. And we follow their journey through all these feelings to them then getting the spark back and having amazing sex in the process.
Fantastic. So, already sounds good. You know, just such a, you know, captures. So, you know, from your point of view, I mean, obviously that is terrible. You know, like say, you know, when you've got everything on your laptop and then suddenly it dies and all that hard work and everything else, it takes that, you know, the pain away from really starting again and kind of doing that. Yeah. So did you get to a point where you're kind of like, no, I am going to do this? Was there something that kind of spurred you to go, no, I am going to write this. I'm going to get it going again. Was it kind of a case perhaps maybe the children were a little bit older and you thought, right, I'm going to go back into it? Or
yeah, so I've always wanted to write. I actually published my first ever bit of writing when I was 13. So I was a published poet at 13. I entered this competition and did that. So I've always loved creative writing. And I think, like the non-fiction, I loved doing that. But I always liked to do a bit more fiction and get a bit more creative with my writing. So I always knew I wanted to be an author, but just didn't kind of know which alleyway I was going to go down. Yeah. So once that book was lost, I was like, right, we're going to do a fiction and we're going to go for it. I did try and get it published down the traditional route. Yep. That took 2 years of no's. And after 2 years of no's, I was a bit like, oh, I'm over it now. Like, it's been done for a while. I just want to get it out into the world, whether that's on Amazon or however. And so I just self-published, and I'm so pleased that it's just out there now and it's not just sitting in my files anymore.
And it must be, I mean, obviously one is a very proud moment of when you get to the end of that and you kind of published it. Mm-hmm. But tell us also a little bit more about, because obviously you've done a lot of the creative work as well, haven't you? You put a lot of effort into like cover designs and everything else. Tell us a little bit about that kind of journey of, you know, you being that creative. So I think sometimes when you go down that traditional publishing route, that's where sometimes it does take that creativity away, because obviously you then have somebody else who's doing the cover design or the formatting and the other things.
I'm too much of a control freak to let someone else do my cover. I just be like, no. So actually this is a naughty AI cover. So I basically had a really tight turnaround with the publishing date. Yep. So those of you that have published on Amazon KDP, there is a review period and you can't submit while they're reviewing. So I couldn't submit my cover that I've illustrated before the publication date because I would have risked having to move the publication date. Yeah. So we've got a little AI cover, but I have actually illustrated my own cover, which is going to be released as a second edition. Yeah. I used to illustrate other people's books, children's books. So I've done quite a few children's books, but I always wanted to illustrate my own cover as well. So I've got a really cute, like, bookish pink
Yep.
cutesy cover.
So we'll have to get you back in to go through the new
Yeah,
cover.
I'm
and
thinking
go through
around
that, please.
Valentine's Day it's going to come out, because in the future I want to have a series of books that are all the same sort of look.
Yeah.
And this is not the look that we're going for. So happy that it's out there, but it's not quite how I want it to be yet.
But I think it's, and I know obviously we've had this conversation before, but I think, you know, when you do your first one as well, there are so many little things that you think, oh God, you know, I wish I'd done that differently, or you learn, and you know, there's so much to go through, especially if you kind of, you know, you've come from a different, well, similar industry, because obviously you've, you know, designed other people's books. But is there one thing that you'd go, actually, do you know what, if I did it again, this is one thing I'd do differently? I've got too many, I think.
Do you know what? If you've got like proper bookish authors that like literally are like massive book nerds, then mine is How It Feels, which is such a weird thing. I like a 5/8-inch book, not a 6/9 book. This is a 6/9 book, and I also don't like how thin it is either. I like it to be a little.
Size does matter.
I just like my books to be a certain way, and this is not like how I like it to be. So for my next edition, I have gone 5/8, which will then make it thicker. And I've got my proof coming soon, and I will keep going until it's perfect, because I'm just so OCD about that.
When we start to go through a lot of these books as well, I mean, you know, best-selling books, you know, the New York Times best-selling books, all of those. It's interesting. Nearly every single author out there has released multiple books. They've queried with so many literary agents. And they've had so many rejections, and they've changed so many different things. I mean, I did, I watched a couple of, I'm fascinated by Lee Child. Obviously that was kind of my route for going into more the crime piece. But when you actually listen to his stories of when he first wrote his first one, he said, I don't even like the front cover, and I didn't like this, and I didn't like that. So I think you go through that, you've gone through the pain of your first one and learnt so much. And then as you go on, you kind of go, well, actually, quite like that, didn't like that one, I'm going to change this one, I'm going to do that. And I think that's just the whole thing of you know, learning and growing as you kind of go through them all. So.
And I think if you're doing one book, then it's fine, but knowing that I want to go forward and write several books, and I want them to all have the same look about them, this one, the next edition, needs to be what I want going forward, because I'm not then going to go back and change all of them going forward. So it's like Frida McFadden, though. She self-published all of her books initially and then went back and republished them all traditionally, and they all completely changed. So
it's almost like they're having their stamp, aren't they, on,
on
the newer versions. Which brings me nicely actually to the next question. Was I was going to say, you know, where do you see it in the future? Where do you want your writing to go to? Are there more books in the kind of...
So my niche as an author is motherhood. So I want to write all of these stories about motherhood from different angles. Obviously, I only have a personal one angle, which is kind of covered in this book, which is the losing your spark when you first have your children and then getting it back again as they grow. But I want to go into like single motherhood, you know, finding a relationship as a single mum, same-sex marriages. I want to just go into parenthood from all these different angles and get stories from people in those areas and write about them, so that they have their type of parenting covered, because this is covered like a very, very traditional, in air quotes, mum, dad, kids, family. But we know that that's not everything that's out there. There's so many different types of families, blended families. So I want to cover them all, and them all have their own journey that they go on, which ends in spice, obviously.
Like that, obviously, that's the important
obviously.
Piece, but and again, I know obviously we've had, you know, different conversations as well, but I think you know, from my side of things, where obviously it was you know, a bit of crime and also that kind of adult spicy romance, the crime obviously resonated more, I guess, with men and women. I found that obviously the kind of spicy romance resonated more with women. But what I suppose the thing that I liked it, and I miss that so much now having moved on to crime, was the feedback. You know, people were saying, oh my God, that resonates with me. Oh my God, you know, that is absolutely what I had, or what I thought, or what I felt, or so on. So do you kind of get that response as well from your readers? I know obviously it's very, very new, but I'd love to kind of hear your perception in terms of, you know, what you're hearing really from readers.
Yeah, so it's more so about the other stuff rather than the spicy bits. Everyone seems to kind of still be in the bit where they're not at the spicy bit yet in their life. They're kind of relating to the resentment towards their partner and the arguments over who's loading the dishwasher and taking the bins out. They're kind of in that area still. But so this is a dual point of view book as well. So we get the point of view from Emma and from Dan. So they're both in their own heads with these monologues of like, why am I finding this so hard?
Yep.
So although some people have said, like, to begin with, hearing that point of view from Dan made them a bit frustrated because they're in their head being like, hold on a second, I'm doing this, and this, and you get to go out to work. By the end of the chapter, they're like, oh, they're having it hard too. And I've just not even thought about it from their point of view. So actually, I now feel like we could work on this and, you know, look at it from each other's point of view. So I've had all of that feedback, which is good. And a lot of people have said they want to make their husband read it as well. So that's really nice.
No,
so
I
hopefully
like that.
some husbands out there reading the book.
Well, I'm definitely going to be taking coffee and getting my kids are a little bit older now, but I will definitely, you know, I think it's quite nice to look back and actually see, we went through that.
Yeah, and no doubt you've been where they are in the book,
definitely.
And you've kind of come through all those difficult parts. So a lot of people will look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember that well.
Yeah, I remember that stage. Yeah. So more importantly, what is next for you? Obviously, we're just going into a new year. What are your plans for next year and so on?
So I want to get the second edition out, the pretty book cover, and get that out with a nice, like, bookish launch and some nice pretty PR packages for my influencers. So I'll get that out, and I have actually started on book number 2 as well.
Fantastic.
So I think the thing that took me the longest with this book was the formatting. We were talking in the green room about the formatting and how difficult it is. But now that I've got that, I feel like I can just write. I don't have to like sit and feel overwhelmed about the formatting. So I started number 2, which is called Playdate. And it is about a single mum and single dad who fall in love on the school run. So, yeah, lots of...
Looking forward to that. That would be great and exciting. I mean, from your side of things, I mean, I'm going to go into something a little bit more funny now because... We'll go back. I'm actually going to be putting the links at the bottom as well so that we can get access. Presumably we can get, you know, your book on Amazon and all of those great sites. Amazon. We will put the links in there so you can click and read the books. If you were on a desert island and it was just you, which author would you take with you? Or which author would you have stranded with you on a desert island?
I don't know. I wouldn't... Have you heard the rumours that Frida McFadden isn't Frida McFadden?
Yes. And I'm trying to think now what her... I know that obviously she had a psychological background, so obviously she was in kind of medical research and psychology. I cannot remember for the life of me what her name was.
I don't know, but she's apparently not the woman you see everywhere. That's like a fake person. Anyway, it wouldn't be her. I was thinking
you'd have the real one or the non-real one.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking it would be her, but I think I've like read enough of her books now that I kind of know how her mind works. So I think I'd go B.K. Borison because she just writes these like romantasy books that are just so out there, and I would just love to like pick her brains. Like I'm reading her Christmas one, Good Spirits, at the moment, where the ghost of Christmas past comes to haunt this girl and she falls in love with the ghost. And I'm just like, it's brilliant.
It's got to be easier.
Yeah.
It's got to be easier.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be easier. Yeah, it's got to be easier. But yeah, I just want to know like how she thinks of these really like kooky and wild ideas. I think she'd be great.
Very interesting, I think. And you know, speaking to some of the other previous authors, they've all come up with some really interesting ones, and I think that's because of obviously, you know, your time on a desert island, as lovely as it sounds, and I'd probably quite like it. It'd be quite interesting to have a few kind of quirky authors who think, oh, that could be quite interesting. And
I just want to pick her brains and figure out how on earth do you think of like, oh, let's write a book about someone falling in love with the ghost of Christmas past. Like, it's so random.
I do like
love
that.
it.
And the same with obviously J.K. Rowling, you know, where their mind and their imagination goes is just, you know, phenomenal. So
it's crazy.
Sounds good.
That makes me want to be like a romantasy or a fantasy author because you could literally go anywhere with it. But I've got my niche now. I'm stuck. Unless I have a mum ghost.
Never know. Maybe that's in book 2 or 3.
Yeah,
right? Maybe that comes in. I mean, I always thought about you know, J.K. Rowling, thinking, you know what, it'd be really, really cool to come up with kind of like the next, you know, Harry Potter. But I just think it's such a tough, I suppose, process to get into.
Yeah.
And to think of all of those characters and to be anything better than Harry Potter, can't
She's just
see that.
got a,
She's
like,
incredible.
Extraordinary brain on her, hasn't she?
Yeah. So no, I'm going to stick to my crime ones for now.
Yeah.
And my last, again, very funny question. If you had one thing that you could have on that desert island with you, it doesn't have to be a book, it doesn't have to be book related, but any one thing that you would kind of have with you.
I think, am I allowed my phone?
Yeah.
I'm literally glued to my phone. Like, if it's literally right down here as well, because I'm like, I can't put it too far away. God.
So many people have actually said about tech or like Kindles or so on.
Yeah.
I think we just need to have like a solar panel charger so that you could recharge it. But I think that's more than within your rights to take your phone with you.
Yeah, there we go. That's my phone. Or a cup of tea, because like a kettle and stuff, because I can't live without a cup of tea.
True.
Like fun fact, I once applied to go on Bear Grylls and I got through and I couldn't get out of uni, but the one thing that I don't think I can manage without was my cup of tea.
So I think we can say phone.
No, my tea, like literally my tea in the morning. I don't think I could cope without it.
Have to have a tea plant or something that obviously was growing nearby or something.
Imagine that effort for a cup of tea though.
No, I like that though. I think they're both valid reasons. A cup of tea, a phone, and a good book, obviously.
I'd be sorted. Leave me on that desert island, I'd be fine.
But no, I mean, I'm really, really super pleased about obviously book. I hope it goes really, really well.
Thank you.
Couple of things that we're going to go into now as well is we're going to start talking about the Sunday Times. So I'm actually pleased because previous weeks we've had huge books, almost like you need a holiday to kind of read just one chapter. We've got some really interesting ones. So in this week we're going through the paperback best-selling Sunday Times bestsellers. The first two, and I'm going to pick up the first two more importantly, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse. Now, I mean, everybody I think has seen these characters. They are very, very funny. They've done a lot of things together. I know why this is on the Sunday Times bestsellers list. I think they're very, very classical together. But the book also goes through quite a few different things as well in terms of, their life. They've had a lot of health issues and so on. So, from them, I hope this book does really, really well because it's kind of like yes, it is funny and it's lighthearted, but equally it goes through quite a few different things. This one here, and the reason that I'm going to put these two together is because this is actually about the dog that features in Gone Fishing and some of the quirky behaviours there. So those two, interestingly, go kind of hand in hand together. I think if you're going to buy this one, you're going to buy that one. But I've, and again, I was telling everybody that this only turned up yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to properly read any of these. But more importantly, the synopsis, some of the context behind it is really interesting, and it's quite short and snippy. So I think it has a really big potential. Bob Mortimer, so obviously Gone Fishing is built on deep friendship and their shared love for fishing. So they're both massive fishers and obviously like to get themselves out there. But also what I thought was quite funny is how they both started. So obviously we talked about, your background and how you started writing your journey and where you're going through. They both had non-comedy careers before fame. So Paul worked for Hackney Council and Bob was a solicitor. Oh. So not anything to do with comedy, not anything to do with kind of writing books or authors. But I think that was actually quite interesting, because it just shows, and most of the authors that we feature and also some of the writers here, some of them don't even start off with a writing career or journalism or literature or anything like that. Obviously some do, and I'll kind of go into other people, but I just thought it was interesting from obviously Bob Mortimer's point of view. Now, they kind of navigate through serious health battles. So Bob's had a lot of problems with heart and rheumatoid arthritis. Paul has also had a problem with heart, so maybe it's all the laughing and kind of the comedy piece. But I just thought it was quite interesting in kind of going through all that. And he obviously talks about, so Bob's beloved dog Ted, which is the one that's in this one. So again, just such different books this week. I think it's actually quite funny.
There's such a random mix.
Yeah. I mean, we've always seen the likes of your Frida McFadden's and those ones, but these ones are so different. So it's actually quite nice. So from Ted's perspective, It's called a Porto biography. I had to be very careful then about what I said. It's a humorous and semi-true memoir from the famous dog on their Gone Fishing programme. But the funny thing is, it's actually from his real life Ted, the Patterdale Terrier. So again, it goes through that. But even though it is lighthearted, it actually talks about, which I quite like, and I think this is quite good for a lot of people. It talks about how a dog is for life and not just for Christmas. And it kind of talks about, and I love my dogs. So this for me, I thought was actually quite good. And it talks about obviously better treatment of animals and so on. So for me, I think they're actually two quite very, very different books to feature. So like those ones. The second one, or sorry, should I say the third one on the list? Now, this is a really interesting one. I'm not even going to attempt to say the authors. I did try practicing a few times, but I don't want to get them wrong. So it is a Japanese best-selling book by these two authors. But what I quite like about this as well is that it is about, again, self-teaching people how to kind of reflect on their behaviour, other people's behaviour. But one thing that is quite different, which I quite like as well, is that inside it kind of follows. It's almost like a philosopher, and then so somebody's asking the questions, and then somebody's replying to it. So when you go through the book, it kind of has it in almost like I'm asking a question, I'm going to give the answer. But more importantly, it sold 10 million copies of this book. So that's why it's on the Sunday Times best-selling list. But I think, you know, to have something different. I mean, it says here, single book can change your life. It's actually quite, you know, philosophical.
I'd actually read that. That looks like a really good book to read.
Really interesting. So yeah, again, you can see why it sold so many copies. But I quite liked it. So The Courage to Be Disliked is a Japanese bestseller based on Alfred Adler's psychology. It's written as a Socratic dialogue between a philosopher and youth. So again, kind of question answer mentality. And I think the biggest point here and why it's done so well is the core principle is distinguishing between your tasks, so whose outcome you control, and other tasks where outcomes they control. And I guess if I look at, you know, my background in terms of, you know, technology and kind of business, you've always been taught to control the things you can and not worry about the things you can't control. So for me, I'm actually quite keen on, so maybe December is going to be a good month where I might get to read some of these. But I think that is the point of, you know, very philosophical, very going through it. And I'm actually quite interested in looking at that one. So number 3. Number 4
such
here.
A random mix, isn't it? We've now got a hair.
And you know, a lot of these people again haven't really heard of. But again, Chloe Dalton, she's got a very she obviously started off working for the UK Parliament, a lot of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. But this talks all about a hair that she kind of brought on during lockdown, and then it's kind of how to look after wildlife. And a lot of it, actually, if you look at Chloe, she has. She's like a big advocate for nature, for animals, for care, all that kind of stuff. So it's quite an interesting journey. And it, like on the back says, Raising Hair is a story of their journey together. So it talks about obviously nature and obviously how she's cared. But what I also found interesting, I didn't know about Chloe Dalton, but even on the back, you've got quotes from Angelina Jolie, The Times, The Guardian, Matt Haig, Spectator. So very big. I think this again is going to be quite a rising book to kind of go through. But a few things about her as well, which I thought were interesting. So she worked in UK Parliament, as I said, you know, for the Foreign Office. Her debut book talks about raising a newborn hare, and she obviously found it during the pandemic. But it's now become the Sunday Times and New York Times bestseller.
Wow.
She won the 2025 Wainwright Prize and shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction. So she's kind of gone from, you know, writing this as her debut novel to instantly Sunday Times, which is, I wouldn't say it's unheard of, but it's very unusual for kind of writers to go from something kind of, you know, literature based to something else. And as I said earlier, you know, she supports the campaigns for closed season for hair shooting as well. So again, very interesting, one that I hadn't, you know, necessarily thought of, but looks very, very good. So I'm going to be taking a good look at that one. Now, one here, I know we've had a previous conversation about Colleen Hoover. So for those of you who haven't seen her or even heard of her, it is again quite rare. But Colleen Hoover, she does these quite nice, they're not massive books, a lot of them are sort of shorter stories, but they're so nice that I think once you start a couple of chapters, you get hooked. I previously read Verity. Obviously, she's Regretting You, which is the latest film that's now out in the cinema. Very good. There was quite a few things in there that I thought, well, I wasn't expecting that. I know you're obviously a big, lover of Frida McFadden and so on. I think she's very similar.
And that's the kind of book you could read in a night. Like, it's nice and small. Just binge the whole book in a night.
You can kind of just go, shh, I'm reading. Leave me alone to do my thing. But I also think on Colleen Hoover as well, again, we were talking about book covers. I just like hers because, again, they're simple. She has either like one flower or one particular. So a lot of her books are very unique. And again, I know obviously you're a big lover of TikTok as well. Colleen Hoover started on TikTok because she was made famous because of obviously the amount of following she had on TikTok. But yeah, I am a big lover of Colleen Hoover, but I think, from Confessor's point of view, again, I'm not going to lie, I haven't read it, but it is one that I want to sit down and really read. Couple of interesting facts, which again, I don't know if you knew, but Colleen Hoover actually started writing as a hobby, which very obviously similar to yourself, myself. She self-published her first novel, Slammed, in 2012. But
that's literally exactly like Frida McFadden. She published her first book in 2012 as well.
And it's actually, if you look back, you think, gosh, it's not that long ago. It's not something that they've been writing for 20 odd years, like a Lee Child or James Patterson. It's still quite new. But when we were talking about the first couple of books where you're still learning and you're still developing, she suddenly, it wasn't until 2020 that they suddenly got noticed on TikTok, and then boom, it
just
kind
keep
of all
going.
took off. Keep in there. You will make it. But so interestingly, from her point of view as well, before her book deals, Hoover lived in a trailer with her husband, a long haul trucker, and their 3 sons, and she earned $9 an hour as a social worker. So very, very different to probably what she earns now. But if you've ever seen her in any kind of interview, I follow her quite a bit on TikTok and Instagram. She's such a kind of a humble, goes right back to her roots. I really like her because she just seems a very interesting and personable, lady. So for me, that's why I quite like her. More interestingly now, since so obviously early 2025, she's sold over 35 million books, which is phenomenal. But I can see why. She's just incredible. So I do really, really like her, and I know that her. I won't spoil it because obviously there are quite a few films and you really need to go and look at them or watch them. But I do sense that a lot of her earlier books as well were from her own experience. So a lot of it is very kind of heartful, very emotional. She goes into so much detail. So again, I think from Colleen Hoover's point of view, I like the fact that she's drawn on previous kind of emotions and experience to kind of draw down to that. So
and she's got films and stuff, which is what a lot of these authors are now having, which is literally, it like makes my head go up in the clouds, like that could be me one day.
That's what you need a good book to film adaptation and get your lots. But it's interesting who takes it from that point of view and that kind of literary agent process. It's really difficult kind of going out to those agents and then them being so specific in terms of what they're looking for. And I hate to say this because I know there's so much, hard work and determination that goes into book, but I think sometimes there is that element of luck. Because you could have, the best romantic book in the world. You could be a really, really good writer. And sometimes it's only at that particular time that you've sent it to that literary agent. They picked you and gone,
and they're looking.
I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
So I think keep going, like querying it. I'm going to do the same.
I don't think I'm going to query it for a while. Like now that it's out there in the world, I think I'm just gonna let it be. That's it. So maybe one day
go from there. I will be seeing you in like 5 to 10 years time, and you'll be like,
do you know what? The nicest thing, like the money, the getting a film, I'm not really that fussed about any of that. I just want to be able to take my kids to like a Waterstones and be like, there's mummy's book. Like, I don't care about all the other stuff, but I want it to be stocked in a Waterstones somewhere. So that's the goal.
I think that, I think that is a I think that is a fair dream to have, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you do walk past. If you're like me, I do the same thing. I walk past the Waterstones, the front display window. You kind of see all these great displays and things, and you think, I could write that. I could be featured in that. I could feature there. So it's definitely. So what have I bet the kids have loved, haven't they?
They're not allowed to look in it, obviously, because they're little. And Bella keeps saying, "Oh, mummy, just let me read a bit," and I'm like, absolutely not, like not a chance. So they're very proud that mummy has a book, but they're not allowed to read it.
Well, it's quite nice, I think, as well. A couple of people have said about children's books as well. So maybe in the future there might be, I don't know, different. Do you think you'll go off into a different?
Maybe older children's books. I don't think I'd write like young children's books because I like to just write a lot, whereas they're not a lot of
just
words.
A few words, isn't
maybe
it?
Like a kind of like Tom Fletcher-esque kind of book. Yeah, I would do, because then that's more like adventure, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
or even like I quite like the teenager sort of adventure books as well. They seem to be quite
like
good.
David Walliams style older ones. With
He's very quirky, isn't he? I do again.
And poo in it, 'cause kids love that.
I do like his ones as well.
Yeah.
Maybe he might be in a few of the next weekly ones as well.
Oh, I imagine he's in loads.
Yeah.
He's a great writer, excellent writer.
He is, isn't he? I do like him. So finally, Adele Parks. So
I love Adele Parks.
She is not on this week's Sunday Times bestselling list. However, so many of the audience, every week I basically ask them, who's an author you want to feature, who do you want to talk about, who do you want to see, perhaps maybe it's a rising one. She's definitely not rising because she's already there. But Adele Parks, I had so many of you that said really want to feature her and talk about her. So again, from her side, I'm going to go into the kind of the back in a little bit, but firstly, I do prefer hardbacks to paperbacks. I just think there's something about just the way they look and just the way they are, and I just feel like that's the.
I love a hardback with a sprayed edge.
Yep,
that's literally like.
This one hasn't, but it has got quite a nice cover.
Oh, has it? Oh, I love a good cover.
Up.
Oh, look,
very beautiful.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I've seen it. It's kind of like a popular thing at the moment, isn't it? All the sprayed edges.
I just spent 40 quid on one book because it had a beautiful sprayed edge. I was like, I have to have it.
It's definitely a market in it at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
So and Adele Parks, I can't rave about her enough. Her books are incredible, but I'm also going to go into her as an author as well, because again, I think she's done so well. But some of the ones on the back, Lisa Jewell, Louise Minchin, Claire Douglas, Ruth Jones. So Ruth Jones we had in previous episode because she just brought out one with James Corden, and there's just so many on here. So she's not only liked by obviously a lot of the audience and so on, but she's also liked by a lot of authors as well, which I think for me, if other authors are reading her work, it's a huge thing. So do I have to put all these?
Running out of space.
So I'm going to throw it. So Adele Parks in 2022, she was part of the New Year's honours list, and she actually received an MBE by the Queen, but she didn't receive it obviously from King Charles in the end, but for her services to literature. So she is, again, from an author's perspective, absolutely phenomenal. Since her debut novel, so again, her debut novel, Playing Away, was in 2000.
Oh, wow.
So it's only 5 years that she has had like her first one.
2000 or 2020?
2000. My maths is shocking.
25 years.
So ignore me completely. 2000. I was actually blown away then by the 5 years.
Yeah.
So no, 2000. So actually a little bit longer, but which would make sense really, because she's published a new novel every year.
Wow.
All of them have been Sunday Times bestsellers.
Wow.
So
that's insane.
a book a year. 25, and all of them have been Sunday Times bestsellers. So
amazing.
phenomenal there. And also over 6 million English editions of her work have been sold globally as well. So again, from her point of view, fantastic. We were talking earlier about obviously, you obviously being an author and becoming published at 12. She decided she wanted to be a writer at the age of 7, which I think is quite cute. I think that's lovely. After a local librarian planted her idea. So she's clearly got such a long history of literature, of books, of writing and so on, that she's absolutely loved that. But very similar to yourself, her very first piece of writing published nationally was a romantic poem in Blue Jeans magazine when she was just 12 years old as well. So you have something in common with Adele Parks.
Maybe I could be the next Adele Parks. You never know.
Exactly. But no, I think, when I think it's important when you start writing to actually look at an author, one that has inspired you, and you think, actually, do you know what? I can be that, that next best author, or next best selling author.
Yeah.
This is how they started. This is where it's obviously going. So again, a little bit of inspiration, but equally, I just love, love her works, seeing the others. And again, I'd like to see more of hers turn into films.
Oh,
which
yeah,
would be
definitely. Oh, yeah. Both of Us would be a good film.
Exactly.
That would be a great film. There
Yep.
you go. Make it a film, somebody.
Yeah, somebody. Can you pick it up, please? We need, need a book to a film.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that brings me to the end, but I have loved having you in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I really hope it's not the kind of the last time we're going to obviously see you here. You're going to be the best-selling author on the Sunday Times. You're going to be featuring on these. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that. But more importantly, Lottie has very kindly agreed to donate a signed copy to one of you lucky people. So you need to comment Dirty Laundry below so that we can select one lucky winner of doing that. So again, thanks very much for watching. Look out for the next couple of episodes that are coming soon.